So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at our penultimate EDI training session this season before summer. So before we start, just a couple of housekeeping rules. Everything you hear, all the information you hear in this session, just please treat confidentially. So you're free to take any learning with you, but don't kind of identify and share stories of people that are here. Be kind, be respectful. If you disagree with someone, that's okay. Just make sure to kind of listen to the other person. And if you want to have a discussion, we can do that as well. You're free to turn your camera off while we're in kind of the PowerPoint mode. Keep your microphones off unless you're talking. And then once we get to a couple of discussions that we'll have, it will be really nice to see all your lovely faces if you're able to turn your cameras on. So I will now just briefly introduce our three speakers, facilitators, and I will hand over to them. So Emma is an associate artist and associate director of Access All Areas. Since graduation from the performance making diploma at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in 2016, Emma has devised and performed 2 solo shows. In 2021, Emma made their directional debut with immersive app-based show, The Interrogation, which toured nationally. Emma continues to work with Access All Areas, running masterclasses, co-directing NHS England's Oliver McGowan mandatory training films, and teaching on the performance-making diploma. Liselle is Associate Professor in Performance at the University of East London and is a neurodivergent performance artist and director, challenging theatrical norms through a crip, queer, feminist, and radical approach. She's a socially engaged theatre practitioner, educator, researcher, and performance artist who foregrounds her neurodivergent identity in her practice. Through her work, she actively pushes against theatrical and pedagogical norms through a radical crip, queer, feminist, and collaborative approach. Liselle co-founded Not Your Circus Dog Collective and co-created the award-winning Not Fucking Sorry in 2014 with Nick Nevelin, I'm sorry if I butchered that last name, and Liselle co-founded Access All Areas Diploma in Performance Making. And last but not least, we have Heather, who is a creative support and theatre practitioner and actor. And Heather has worked with Access All Areas on their productions of NFS, The Interrogation, Unreal City, Imposter 22, and A Small Enclosed Room with Alfie Murphy. She also supports artists across a range of Access All Areas work, including artist development, consultancy, advocacy, and training panels, and on their performance-making diploma course. Heather has mentored artists on the Transforming Leadership program, working one-to-one with artists to develop their skills of leadership across directing, facilitation, and governance. Heather is also an accomplished actor and originally trained at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. So, without further ado, I will hand over to our hosts.
Thank you for that, Dora. That's really lovely. And it's really lovely to be here. So we only have a very short time with you all. So the aim of it really is just sort of to have a safe space to start looking at some critical questions around intersectionality and culture in terms of welcoming and working with neurodivergent and learning disabled people. And we're going to be using a piece of theatre that's now a film in order sort of to act as a sort of stimulus for that. So we hope it's relevant. It's very participatory, our event. So I'm just going to so yeah, just before I move on to the second slide. So just to say, yeah, it's interesting. It's actually Not Your Circus Dog is a collective that's made up of learning disabled and autistic and neurodivergent people. And we as a collaborative, we formed ourselves about 10 years ago as part of a diploma for learning disabled people. And after 10 years, we're still here. And we're now moving, we got it filmed and we now use it for training and screenings.
Liselle,
yeah.
Before you move on, you're not in full presenter mode.
Oh, sorry, apologies. Thank you, sorry. So yeah, I don't want to spend too long on this, but what I wanted to do is I just put on a wonderful 5-star quote from when we toured the show. 3 times we received Arts Council funding and we've won awards. And I think the key thing, the reason why I think it's still working is because it's very political, the piece. But it's so in a way I should say it the other way around. It's a fun piece, it's outrageous, it's cabaret, it's theatre, but it's also testimonial. It's also protest theatre. And it was made with, by learning disabled, autistic and neurodivergent people. So it's very much, it's not speaking for, it's as we speak for ourselves. I'm just going to move to the next slide, I hope. And it's just really to reassure everybody this is a relaxed event. And Emma, do you just want to say a few things about that?
So just to say that for access reasons, you don't have to sit still or stay totally silent. If you need to make noise, talk quietly or stim, you can do so. But bearing in mind that because this is an online presentation, please mute if possible when you feel the need. You can dip in and out, take part in the way that feels best for you, and for some access disclaimers on our end.
Yes.
Us facilitators are all varieties of neurodivergent. Brilliant. And on Lizelle's behalf, I'm going to say that she has had an operation very recently. Yes. And is on medication for that. So we will obviously do our absolute best, but
thank you, Emma.
You know, that's it's really very much about chipping in and supporting each other.
Exactly. And I think, I mean, Emma and I knew each other well before we made this piece of theatre.
Yeah.
But I think there's something in that about over years and years, and with Heather too, of working together. So just to say again very briefly is that we will make mistakes. I have just had a general anaesthetic a few days ago, operation, but we've just put down the rough structure of today. We're going to move shortly. We're going to ask you a question about hopefully everybody's watched the trailer and the behind the scenes trailer, and we'd love just to hear some of your thoughts on that. Then we're going to move on to Emma and I just spending, I think, 5 minutes just telling you a little bit of a tiny wee sort of sneak insight into some of our lived stories that have had an impact on us and that continue to do so as neurodivergent people. Then we've got a brief PowerPoint just to give you a little bit of context to Not Effing Sorry. And actually, I'm just going to say it now. There are extracts that we're sharing that mention death and some sex stuff as well. But we've got an actual slide about that. And then we're going to be showing you 3 extracts from the film. It's a 1-hour piece, but each extract we're showing is only like 6-7 minutes long. And then at the end of that, we'll take a few minutes break and give everybody a chance to hopefully form some responses, questions from the 3 different pieces, which have got sort of 3 themes. And then we'll just look at, and hopefully we'll get it from yourselves, is do's and don'ts. Because of course, you know, you're I know it's a cliche and everybody probably says it now, but you're obviously the experts in the room and we're the visitors. So we can offer a little bit, but we're not from your culture, your setting. So,
sorry, Lizelle, just before we continue, I was going to say something about, I know what it was. If you've got, apologies if this is being arranged differently, Dora. I'm just saying that from an access perspective, we are open to questions in the chat, and there's not really such a thing as a silly, stupid question. So
that's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Okay.
And that indeed is
just to cut in. I hate doing this online because you can't see. Emma, that's completely fine. I forgot to mention that any sort of question asking is okay. And another omission on my point is that I didn't share the trailer with people.
Oh.
I'm very sorry. I got lost in the emails.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show. Okay, so let's just think about this. Okay, so I tell you what we're going to do is we're going to move on. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to show the trailer. we're going to move on. And if we've got time at the end, because we can always send the trailer out, okay?
Yeah.
Or indeed, if anybody wants to Google "not fucking sorry," you'll see the trailer. Okay.
It's
Yeah,
also
that's
on
fine.
the Access All Areas
And we can
YouTube account.
Yes, well, we can
So,
share
yeah.
that link. No, it's brilliant, Emma. We'll share that at the end.
Okay. Or maybe I could put it in the chat now so people can look at it.
Even better, even better, even
On it.
better. Okay.
On it.
So
You
and
carry on.
Thank you. Can I just ask if anybody could put their hand up? Did anybody do an online search on "not effing sorry" before today? Nope. Fine. This is good. I'm quite pleased about that. Okay, good. So actually, Emma, I think we're going to go straight to. In fact, sorry. Yeah, we're just going to go straight to the terminologies then, because just to say sorry, just very briefly, is that "Not Fucking Sorry" was made in collaboration and is performed by 4 artists.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, as I say, a little bit more about the show just after we've done a bit of an exercise. But I think the key thing I do want to tell you all is that "Not Fucking Sorry," it's unapologetic, it's punk, it's crip. So we see disability as desirable. We see it as political. We see it as as culture. We see it as a minority. We also are very influenced by queerness. Again, as crip informs disability, queer informs gender, agency, and just really pushes against those very constraining binaries, which I think is something that often a lot of learning disabled people and neurodivergent people experience, that they have to live within, either literally be quiet or disappear, basically. So I just want to say that it's very much about challenging your assumptions, and that this training is not about you or us doing rote learning how to do A, B, and C. What we're trying to do is really question and challenge how each of us thinks about disability, and how each of us really has to become implicated in turning around how learning disabled people are really, infantilized, dehumanized, and ignored still. So let's just move on to the terminologies which link with our stories. Emma. Oh, I was going to do that, but do you want to ask the question, Emma, around the meltdowns? Or shall I just throw it out?
I would say throw it out, actually, if that's all right, and I'll chip in a bit.
Thank you. So the first task we'd like you to do individually is I'd like you just to respond to the words meltdown, shutdown, or being overwhelmed. Can everybody still see my slides?
No.
Ange says no.
Oh gosh, right, okay, apologies. Well, it's all going well so far. Everybody's being incredibly patient. So it is worth it. When you see our piece, you'll yeah, hopefully. So here we go. Let's try this again. Can you see this?
Yeah. Now
Okay.
I can see.
Thank you.
Sorry, hang on. I can see it, but
did you see? Okay, brilliant.
Right.
So we'd like you to write down. You can draw. You can just have a think about it, but just think about the words meltdown when you might have heard these words, or what you think what these words mean to you. Meltdown, shutdown, being overwhelmed. And the key thing is, if it reminds you of naughty children running around screaming, there we go, that's fine. Okay?
So what I'm going to do as well is type up the words in the chat so people can look at that as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Carry on.
So, and the other thing is that we like interruptions. So I'm going to say, because I'm ADHD and I like just to sort of interrupt, that's how I think, which isn't great all the time. But if anybody wants to just verbalize or just shout, just to share what they think when they hear these words: meltdown, shutdown, overwhelmed. And we need interaction for this session to work. Or if you want to write something down, we can read it out. Oh, there we go. There's lovely. Is it Claire?
It's Claire. Hello, everybody. Okay, so the kind of things that are running through my head when I hear that, they seem to have a negative implication, but they also seem to be something that I think every single person will have experienced from time to time as well.
Yes.
I think a couple of those words, as you said, I do associate with children, especially the meltdown, but that feels a little bit unfair because I think as adults, we've all had them as well. So they're the kind of initial thoughts that go to mind.
Thank you. That's brilliant. Does anybody want to pick up from what Claire said? It's quite tricky to see all the, because I'm doing sharing, if anybody else.
And yeah, we have someone.
Sorry, go on, Dora.
Yeah, I'll join in. So for me, that to me resonates as everyday life. Having a child who is both autistic and has ADHD, that's just life.
Yeah. So it's it's just part of everyday life. And then you've mentioned autistic as well. Thank you. Anybody else just want to call out responses?
I've seen a few in the chat. Would it be helpful for people if I read those out?
Yes, please, because I can't see them actually because of this screen share. Thank you, Emma.
All right. Hannah says crisis and mental health breakdown. Hannah Stevenson.
Brilliant.
Stephanie Fanner, hard to focus.
Yeah.
Ruth Alicia Forsyth, sensory overload, distress, communication breakdown.
Great.
Hannah Stevenson, unable to function or struggle to function. Distress, emotional distress, heartbreaking to see. Marie Poole, even, sorry. Trying to fit in, masking, takes a lot of energy.
Brilliant. Go for it.
Sorry, Ange says reaching a breaking point. There's lots of contributions now. Fiona Campbell, really hard for families. My son's autistic, a lot of anger. Bronya says, overwhelm as the underlying feeling and meltdown and shutdown as how it shows in behaviour.
This is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And you know what? It actually takes me back to the 1980s, because I'm in my late 50s now, when all of these words, every word, struggling, mental health, breakdown, sensory overload, anger, these were all taboos. Mental health was a taboo. And that's not that long ago, the 1980s, 90s. And then we're also equally talking about these are actually terms that impact all of us every day.
Yeah.
Emma, do you want to say a quick response to what you've heard and what for you?
Well, before I do, there's even more comments, which is wonderful to see. Bronya was the last one I read. Claire Aitken. Sorry, who was that speaking?
Do you know what I'm thinking? Shall we move on just because of time and we can have a look at those comments later, if that's okay? Yeah,
okay. Sorry, but just to say, thank you for all your contributions so far. And yeah.
Have you got any, just about for you, Emma, would you like to respond to these terms? Because it was quite important for you and I to throw this out before we tell you our lived experiences.
So just yesterday, as I was walking around, I had like a sort of shower thought, but just as I was walking around, and I got to wondering if maybe part of some anger I displayed or frustration I displayed in school was actually meltdowns for whatever reasons. And I remember, I'm not remembering this very well, but something like a log of how I managed to keep temper or words to that effect. I don't know.
Thank you.
Anyway.
No, that's great. It's brilliant. Again, an everyday experience. I'm just, if it's okay, going to move it into masking, because what I'm thinking about is, I work in a university. I'm basically constantly in unsafe spaces. I'm in spaces where the norm is fit in, practice and carry out expected ways of presenting myself, ways of talking, of the loudness, the still, everything is masking. And once one becomes more conscious of this, it's quite empowering. there's always a risk because that masking needs to continue, because we know that still meltdowns, shutdowns, or being overwhelmed in normal environments are still puts us into danger because we don't know much about them. So if somebody's having a meltdown, actually it's probably best to step back and not go anywhere. But, there's all of these sorts of things. I'm just wondering about time, and I'm thinking, Emma, shall we move on to our stories?
Yeah, okay.
Is that okay? So I'm going to begin. So what we did was we just thought about the brief really from Dora. And we're coming from it. I'm coming from the perspective of, I'm just going to stop sharing. In a way, I call myself a bit of a survivor. And I used to call myself a survivor of having an eating disorder, actually. I had bulimia nervosa for about 10 years, and I survived that. That happened, developed when I was about 14. And I was brought up in a Jewish family in Glasgow. I've just made some notes, and I say that I throw that into the mix because only recently there's been some research done which links eating disorders with neurodiversity. ADHD and bulimia it's sort of that thing of, I have my own way of compartmentalizing, of really struggling with priorities, with order, with that sort of normal order. And it was actually a very important article that I read that linked the two. So I want to just say a little bit about, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk a little bit about when I made the show Not Fucking Sorry with the 4 actors and with Heather. We always had at least, I think, 2 or 3 support workers in the room. I was working with the dramaturg. And basically, it felt like home. So I was making, and it's lasted for 10 years. So we made this now professional piece of theatre through devising, through research. But the point of it was, we were making it with 4 very marginalised people who every day still experience exclusion, infantilisation, hate crimes. Even when we were on tour, there were hate crimes being experienced. Stephanie has Down syndrome and is constantly being stared at, as is DJ, I think everybody can be. And I'd want to just say that what that did, and I arrived there in the right time for me in my professional practice, that I'd been through a whole journey, is that we created our own rules, the care that we needed, a space where we set the boundaries, where we worked so hard at, I hate the word inclusion because everybody uses inclusion, but working in a creative language that we all understood, not one language, but our own ways of being in this world, our own forms of expression. And also, as I say, recognising the historical marginalisation in the room. So, of course, lucky me, I've got a job at the university. My neurodiversity, allows me to have privileges. Whereas, of course, as with Emma as well, but some of our colleagues have been so, learnt not to listen to themselves. As a woman, I've learnt not to listen to myself. As a survivor of, we went into role all the time, roles, so that we are serving, making a piece of theatre, not just for ourselves. So we had to practice, what does it mean to learn about my history? Because we had to learn about, the horrific things that have happened historically So what we're doing is, this became my home because we decided what was important, basically, rather than the other way around. And that really impacted my personal life, my professional life. And it's very much, as I say, about when making this piece of work, it's about celebrating individuality. And what's amazing is that we demand a certain way of working when we, even in this, which is reflected in not fucking sorry, because it's very much about, we create a piece where everybody feels comfortable in, but then we celebrate the individual, which you'll see. I just want to say a little bit now on my everyday living. So I'm ADHD, dyspraxic, and that's meant that, growing up in quite a conservative family, I was always told not, I'll never be a woman, I'll never fit in. And even with I had quite a serious shoulder break. I had screws put in, I fell a month ago at Disability Leads Conference. So I'm always breaking things, literally, physically, losing things, talking too much, not understanding cues. And that, so I'm always failing. But obviously, I'm very aware of my strengths as well. And but I just to say that sort of, I'm always trying to fit in, but sometimes I fail with that. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next thing. And it's just to say that, like, as I say, I work in academia now, and I'm constantly carrying that because everybody's still hiding. And I find it shocking, actually. But my research and my creative work, which I had to make my own pieces as well prior to this, was really important about climbing inside myself and learning about in my own agency. And then just finally, that thing about, the sort of, it was only about 5 years ago that I was properly diagnosed with ADHD. And on one hand, it was like, now I get it. But then again, there was a bit of mourning, because I'll never be a proper lady. I'll never, I'll always have difficulties with, executive functioning skills. My university love the research I do, but actually I present as normal, but I'm really struggle with lots of things. So we have to be a bit of a superhuman. Anyway, so there we go. I think I'm going to stop there. Hold on. Oh, yes. And I suppose the final thing, just to quickly say, I'm probably over my time, is I'm an associate professor in performance. And actually what performance and making work has really given me in my own way, DIY performance. It's that thing of, it says, I am, the way I engage in this world, the way I digest and then respond to this world in my language is important, and it's political. So there we go. Over to Emma.
Okay, thanks for your story, Lizelle. I'm now going to share some of my own lived experience. I freely admit that I am extremely privileged and successful in my role in lots of ways. However, right, hang on. So I first joined the Access All Areas Diploma course in 2016. And on the face of it, I'd have been either super successful or not at all, because I was living on my own in a massive house in Essex. I was engaged, and that relationship ultimately broke down. And it originally came to Access All Areas from a place of great despair, like, what have I got to lose? I got fired from my probation at the call center in the bank. But yeah, I did actually create a performance about the success and the joy that Access All Areas brought to me. However, A, that's on YouTube, and B, that'll be for another time. Anyway, I'm going to share an example of access barriers that I faced quite recently. So I was invited to do research and development for a project, and the title of the project included a terminology that I was very unfamiliar with, had never heard before. I asked staff at work what they meant, and to their absolute credit, they did explain it as simply as they could. And I said, yeah, it's fine. But it still didn't quite make sense to me. And yeah, I'll talk about the diploma in a moment, just seeing what's in the chat. Anyway, in the end, I asked the company who were doing this research and development with us what this terminology actually meant twice. Didn't hear a thing. So I ended up asking on Reddit, and I feel like that was a way of masking. And I didn't really know what was expected of me because it was in a different medium than well, my background is more stage. This was more screen related. And it felt like that there was a lot of clashing between what can be organic / unpredictable of creative research and development, and requirements of structure and or conventions. Whether that was from me and or the other projects, I'm still into minds about. I like to know what terminology means before I start, where humanly possible. And Heather can back me up on this. I had at least a couple of meltdowns during this R&D project just because I struggled so much with figuring out what was expected of me and being part of something I was unfamiliar with. Hang on, I'm going to look at the chat again.
Do you want to? No, don't worry about the chat, Emma. I'm just putting that just to as you're talking, so nothing to respond to. Sorry if it's distracting you. Apologies.
No, it's fine. It's still sort of relevant. Because to say about the diploma still running, I actually taught on the diploma course on Tuesday evening, so it is very much still going.
Absolutely. How are we doing with any prompt questions, or are you on track with the next part of what you're sharing, Emma?
Good question. Hang on.
Heather,
I think you've kind of covered it, Emma. It was just giving that example in the, I suppose, in accessible areas now. We hope that we've embedded lots of good practice around access.
Yeah.
But then you can never get it right for everybody all the time as well.
That's
and it's
true.
Constantly evolving, I think.
Yeah.
And just that nature of creativity that is quite organic versus the need for structure, and how that plays out. Everybody's going to have a different experience.
Yeah. And if I may also say something, I was saying this to Heather the other day, that I think on some level I can know when I'm about to experience meltdown, but there are other occasions where I'll be like, I don't necessarily know or pick up on it.
Yeah.
And others might pick up on it before I do. So, to be honest, I think, Heather, we are still trying to figure out how to handle that kind of situation, and of course, how to tell other staff on other projects about all that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. I mean, Heather is crucial in this role, and it also reminds that I actually get through Access to Work my own support worker for 8 hours a week, but the stigma around that at work is really interesting, and it's an interesting one because it's such a ever learning relationship process, but it's critical. And as you see, even the way we communicate, you know, when I work with my students, it has to be dialogical. Doesn't mean that one of us, it doesn't mean it doesn't need structure, and one of us constantly thinking about the time, and I'm busy, you know, just checking on that. But it has to be, you know, there has to be an equity in the room, basically, some form of equity and respect, and it's all about giving, just being quiet and listening. And I really believe it's about asking questions. And even if you don't know what the question is, it's that curiosity, that really wanting to know.
Mm.
Can I move us on? Sorry, do you want to say one last thing and then I'm going to move us on to the PowerPoint? Is that okay?
So just to describe why I'm doing this a lot, this is something I came up with in the process of creating NFS. Because we're all neurodivergent, we all kind of want to say what we want to say before we forget it. And that can often mean a ton of us talking over each other.
Yeah.
And I still have to remind myself mainly, but also others in the room, hold on to your thoughts. So this is literally my attempt to hold on to thought and not interrupt.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you. So I'm literally going to try and just sort of jump through this, but I just wanted to give you like a 5-minute overview and very briefly. So as I said, as it says here, it's learning disabled, autistic and neurodivergent artist led. And that means that, okay, we all might be under that, but of course I've still had more opportunities. My position in the group is higher, right? I understand, those opportunities. I've had certain trainings, learnings, and for me, that has to be named and addressed in the room, because otherwise we just continue that hierarchy. So these are just headliners. And with that, because we're pushing against hierarchies, we made a piece that's all of these things: unapologetic, punk, it's testimonial, it's celebratory. The reason why it's called Not Fucking Sorry is because of Emma, because everybody kept apologising. And we had to play a lot of exercises where everybody was only allowed to say not sorry. And every so often it became not fucking sorry. It's sexy. Again, that was a very challenging, or rather very difficult part in our making process. Some of it wasn't, it was just amazing. But some of it was very challenging because people never had the space to make this work. Anyway, it's 2 or 3 times. It's unapologetic. And the key thing, I think, one of the key things is, why does it work? It works because we've decided, well, what language, what vision, what aesthetics, what visual things bring us together? Well, often learning disabled people are stuck at home watching television. So, and everybody knows about children in need. In fact, Stephanie, who's Down syndrome, became Esther Ranson at one point. That came from her. So we looked at TV reality game shows and we used them as a sort of format to then expose ableism. So it's testimonial. So we did a lot of research. We had to be very careful and look after ourselves because we learned about the horrific, well, it still continues as well, of course, people's experiences. But what was very important is that often, we link drama with therapy when we think about learning disabled people. But of course, we really had to train ourselves around this. Is, we're here as artists, as researchers, and we're making a piece to impact society. It's very confrontational. We really looked at very deep stuff and the question about who's worthy of life. And we basically make the audience choose one performer to live. They can opt out, but most don't, and they do that with a Waitrose token. But the whole point is, we're trying to use performance to wake up, to ask questions. So we've done a big tour over 3 years, sold out, and we've had lots of reviews, we've won awards, and Emma and I have written an academic piece together. I've just written another piece with Mark. And there's a lot written on it now that's really being recognised, which is really exciting. And we're working with lots of different organisations. Anyway, when we were in Brighton, we got it filmed with 5 cameras, and we're now using it because of people's responses to the film. It seems to work as a film to raise these very taboo issues around connected with ableism. And these are just some of our organisations that we're working in partnership with. We're part of various political campaigns now as well to make relationship and sex education compulsory for 16 to 25-year-olds. And there's a lot going on, a lot of training going on. And and that means that the actual pedagogical style and the way we work, this is at Leeds Disability Conference, is that it's very, I was a drama teacher, so it's very participative. It's very responsive in the moment and safe and creative anyway. So we're going to hear what we'd like you to focus on from Heather. But as I said at the beginning, we've selected 3 extracts, and we are doing film screenings as well, if you like it, which I can tell you about later. But it is there's nasty words. There is mention about people being hurt and hate crime. And I think there's a little bit of adult content in the extracts that you see, but we've kept the real adult content for another time for you to see the film. So Emma.
Okay, hang on.
Can you see the screen? I've just put the questions up.
Hang on a minute. So
Brilliant.
we would like you all, as you watch these pieces, to think about what stood out for you, and whether you caught any assumptions you yourself have had and or others in your life have had, and what questions might arise from these clips as far as professional practice and workplace practice goes, or in any other contexts.
Perfect. So while we put those questions, if Heather or maybe Dora can put those questions in the chat, if that's possible, or should I just copy paste it?
It's all right. I'm copy pasting them.
Okay, brilliant. I actually am realizing that I want to ask everybody a quick question. And that is that Emma and I have I've sort of rumbled through it. Emma, you were, very articulate there, but we've just shared bits of vulnerabilities, fragilities, successes, challenges about ourselves. And in our planning, we actually did have a moment where we wanted to hear your responses to that in relation to your professional practice. Is it relevant? Does it resonate? Does it bring to the surface challenges that you experience when you're supporting research colleagues or indeed with yourself? So I just want to throw that out. Again, you can put it in the chat, but it would be amazing if anybody fancies speaking and just giving a response to either anything that Heather and I have said so far in relation to your practice or your organisation. That's what we talked about as well. There's one thing about your own practice, but then the other thing, of course, is working within a big organisation that might say it ticks the boxes, but of course it doesn't always. So any responses to what Emma and I have shared? I think Dora.
Yeah, I'll start us off. I think what was most fascinating for me is, although my role involves thinking about intersectionality and talking to people about intersectionality, and it's kind of everywhere, I kind of tend to forget about the temporality of it. So, I mean, in my research, I work with older LGBT people, so I know how past experiences are relevant. But for them, it's something that kind of continues on. But I think it's also, there's past experiences, like you mentioned, Lisa, you're a survivor of an eating disorder. And sometimes we tend to forget that some things can happen and in the past, but they are still very much with the person. So it was just kind of bringing it back to, it's not just linear, it's horizontal as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think there's 2 hands up. Ange?
Oh, thank you. My work is quite often quite action research focused, and kind of with that, wanting to see a change, I suppose. And I think this was just a really important reminder. I started out my career actually working in learning disability and mental health advocacy, and I think, there was often that push-pull of, is it advocacy with a big A or a little a? And actually quite often it's quite political work, and this is often human rights work. And I think this was just a really nice reminder for me to kind of return back, I suppose, to those roots around human rights. That's really important. So yeah, Thank you very much.
Amazing. And you know what? That's why we're never going to stop not fucking sorry, because there's no quick fix. It's about putting it in, embedding it, so it becomes the culture of not fucking sorry becomes part of our culture. Is that clear? Yes. Yes. Hi, Claire.
Hi there. My reflection is that I found the sharing of both of your stories to be really impactful in a really helpful and positive way from my reflection, because I work in engagement and inclusion, but in the circles that I move in and the colleagues that I have conversations with mainly, we have quite a professional shorthand that sometimes brings equality and inclusion to almost a generic level, where we use words and phrases that describe and we kind of know what we're talking about, but hearing a really direct, undiluted experience I think makes us really focus in on why we're doing the job and how we can be better at it, to perhaps stop diluting some of the work that we do and bring in real stories to help demonstrate exactly why we have the jobs that we have about equality and inclusion. So I found your sharing to be really impactful, because it's made me think perhaps we need to be more direct in the way that we speak with colleagues and use first-hand experience much more.
Yes, thank you for that, honestly. And I'm just going to quickly respond, because it reminds me of an incident that happened on Saturday night, actually, when a friend of mine's partner started interacting with me in a way that I couldn't relate to. And he kept making these jokes and making a bit of fun of me. And what I did was I stepped back. I just walked in and I just closed it down and I stepped back, because I listened to myself, because I knew that he was being inappropriate, and I stepped back. Whereas maybe before I'd climbed into myself more, I would have been like, well, I've got to just fit into how he's talking and be all jokey. Well, that's not, I don't want that. So I just think what you've just said, Claire, is really, resonates as well. Anybody else, a final sharing and response to Emma and myself so far? Any observations? Let's hear one more. I'm gonna be quiet for a minute and see if anybody can just respond if there's any synergies in what we've said.
Or even if you didn't feel from what we said, because that can happen sometimes.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up the first extract. Okay, so we're going to move into, is that okay, Emma? We'll just move to the first extract. Brilliant. And just to, the question is in the chat. I'm just going to quickly say, so this is it's only about 7 minutes into the show. This was at Brighton, and it's been set up that this is a takeover, as Emma says, where we run the show, we make the rules. So this part is very much cabaret style and introducing the pathway or the headliners to the audience. So I'm just going to press play. Okay, Emma, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're ready. Okay.
You lot thought you'd come here tonight to be entertained by a sweet, innocent, cutesy little short bus of disabled people. Didn't you? Ha! Well, fuck you. We lost our jobs. Our benefits have all but gone, with more cuts to come. And austerity, that silent killer, rages on. So we're literally having to whore ourselves out just to get some fucking coins.
So think children in need. Well, tonight is an adult version.
Yes, dirtier or healthier version.
Oh yes, adults in need.
And this is how it works. Yes, all of you to have got green tokens. Is that correct? Good. We nicked them from the charity boxes at Waitrose. Yes, we did.
So tonight, we're going to perform the best all-singing, all-dancing comedy cabaret in town with kissable lip-syncing, sweaty, sexy dancing, and outrageous one-liners.
Simply put, by the end of the games tonight, you need to decide which one of us is worthy of life. You can only pick one. And to do that, you place your token into one of the 4 buckets later on. Now, perhaps you would like to donate to Adam with his wonderful, camp, neurodivergent musical energy. DJ with his impeccable, heartfelt, rhythmic dance moves. Or Stephanie with her beautiful, sassy, rule-breaking humour. Adam. Or perhaps instead, you might like to consider donating to yours truly, Emma, with my ever so intriguing, studious, autistic chameleon identity.
Now, you might be wondering, if I win, how am I going to spend my life? You may think it's a good idea for me to have my very own garden. So that I can do some digging. Or an afternoon outing at my local shopping centre. You're wrong. What I want is a slap-up meal.
And also a taxi ride home.
Or it could be my first alcoholic drink. I can hear that. Stephanie is 34 years old and never has a drop of liquor past those luscious lips of hers. Yes, I have. I meant it for today. Cut. Top on your bottoms. Come on, move it. Yeah, I know, it's funny. Cut the fucking pity. Cut the fucking pity. We are not fucking sorry. Thank you. I drink and also I double smoke.
I love to swear.
And when I see someone like you, I'll point and stare.
I cheat and I lie.
I love to flirt, and I'll make you sigh.
I'll watch porn. I'll read filthy, dirty magazines.
And I stay up way too late.
And every free moment,
I masturbate! So, sit tight and have your tokens ready for later on, everyone. Now, Adam, you're up first. Can you convince them that you are worthy of life?
I'll definitely give it a go. You know what, everyone? You lot give me reason to live.
There we go. There we go. And we hear, take your hat off. He's a beautiful singer. So I think it might be quite good just to give everybody a few moments, just to have a wee think about that, if that's okay. What stood out for you there? What assumptions that you might have noticed in yourself around your own assumptions, or maybe not? I mean, maybe that's not relevant. And are there any questions that have come up in terms of your practice or your organisation? And it's honestly like work. It could literally be one word. It could be a phrase, whatever. And maybe you could put it in the chat. And if you don't want to, that's fine. But we'll just give you a minute if that's okay. And I'll set up for the next one. Themes, yeah, as well. What themes are there? And Emma, if there's anything you want to add, sorry, I'm trying to be very much in the moment, so we make sure you've got that in such a short time. But anyway, I'll set the next film up. Shall we move on? Oh, Emma, I think you're on mute.
Oh, okay. I can see some responses in the chat.
So, yeah.
Go on, Marcel.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just thinking, can we hear the responses at the end of the 3 films, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
This part is during a moment where
Brilliant.
Comedians' routines are lip synced. That's all I'll say. So, Lizelle, you can play the clip.
That's amazing. Because each actor is now trying to convince the audience that they are, as you see at the end of this piece, Emma, that they're worthy of life. So let's move on. We've got Ariana Grande about to perform. Have I got the... Oh, I've taken the wrong one. Hold on. Oh, there it is. We've got it. There we go.
Doing the Tonight Show, and they told me I couldn't say the word retarded, and I'm like, why? And they're like, because it's offensive, and I'm like, to who?
I like to play retarded sometimes, like when I run into that big guy in the mall, and he goes, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, nothing.
Why are they called sunshine variety coaches when all the kids on board look the same?
Oh, one less problem without you. I got one less problem without you. I got one less problem without you. I got one less problem. One less problem without you. I got one less problem without you. I got one less problem without you. And they told me mentally challenged Americans, and I'm like, mentally challenged retards?
Like my sort of thing. Is it just a limp? I'm like, scared the hell out of me. I was driving home thinking, you know what? Maybe I should be taking a bus.
For you to be offended, I think minimum, you have to be the one that's offended. So if you're genuinely offended by that last joke, you're retarded.
I think the sound isn't really coming through here, but just to say, this is obviously it was played at volume with the Ariana Grande song.
Now what? They don't want to see that. They want to. They want to see this. Let's hear it for Stephanie.
For that.
Brilliant. Could everybody hear that? Just want to make sure. You couldn't hear it. What, nobody could hear that? Oh my God, nobody told me.
No, we could, Lizelle, you could hear when the actors on stage were talking, but not the song.
It was the song.
Yeah,
Wasn't
the audience cheering is.
Oh my goodness.
I think because the mics have been recorded probably through.
Okay, so we need to think about this. Okay, apologies. Did you get the gist of the piece though? Could you do it? Yes. Okay, amazing. So I'm just wondering, Emma, just before we move on to the next pieces, again, there was a couple of other questions, which was, were you aware of your own reaction? What were your own reactions to this piece? Did it change? I mean, I think the canned laughter. Is it canned laughter or is it the audience laughing? And then suddenly the audience stopped laughing because they were laughing a lot at the beginning. And again, what questions might raise for you in terms of representation? So again, you just to have a few moments of thoughts on this. And I'm even thinking, because it's quite intense, if anybody wants to give a verbal response to what they've just witnessed, you know, because it's this R word, the retard word is just, or the word moron, these medical word, you know, these were medicalized terms to, you know, accept incarceration of learning disabled people, or, you know, and to put it into a joke form.
Fiona has their hand up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just finding this also interesting. I think my reaction to watching that was really quite uncomfortable because it was all framed as humour, but I found it so unfunny.
Yeah.
And I think if I'd been in the room, I would have really felt really awkward because I wouldn't have wanted to laugh because it's just not funny.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's been framed in a way that is humour. So I've just found it quite uncomfortable.
Go on.
I just wanted to say it's very uncomfortable, and it's really interesting you're saying that because these extracts, when we pull them out of the whole narrative, in a way it becomes like what you're saying, in a way more shocking, because in fact, on either side of this, there's like a path or a trajectory, which, you know, it's all around basically trying to make the audience face up to their own level of discrimination. But as a piece on its own, it needs to be framed very carefully. Anyway, sorry, Heather, you were going to say something. I interrupted, and then we'll hear.
No, just quickly. I think for me, this, when we're thinking about it in terms of training, training resource, it's around the way that the discrimination can be hidden in workplace banter, and just in the kind of thoughtless casualness of language use. So I think it's kind of helpful in that area, because I really think that can wear quite a lot of things, like the whole culture of a workplace.
Exactly.
You know, it's very British as well to kind of couch it. It's just a joke. So yeah, I think that's something in that.
There's loads in that, and that's why it's in the piece, and that's why we use it for training, to bring that to the forefront, because it becomes normalized. Let's hear from, and I can see Stevenson, but I can know that's not your first name.
Their hand up.
Hannah.
Yeah, I think for me, it just picking on Heather's point about the banter aspect. As a union rep, I see this a lot. Staff who are facing discrimination and have been repeatedly subjected to this kind of banter, that actually, if you're able to get this kind of training and the uncomfortableness of it in with that group, it can change opinions. I think it is very uncomfortable for the right reasons. I think for me, I have a cousin who's got a learning difficulty. I've heard him described as the R word, and I hate it. And I think it's yeah, it's good because it's uncomfortable. And I often say that, and it's that open conversation of when we're talking, and I say that when in our inclusion group, that there needs to be a safe space to talk about the uncomfortable, because otherwise we're just going to ignore it and pretend it's not there when we know it is there. So I really think that's a very good thing for the training, and being able to get people to understand not just that you can't say this, but why and the impact it has. Because people can be told don't say something and they'll go, oh, okay then. But if you get people to understand the impact of it, of what they say, that has more meaning to me.
Exactly. And that we're actually all guilty. We're all, if we don't stand up, if we keep silent about it, we're actually continuing it. Claire.
I feel like I want to be able to feed back, but I'm still processing it. I found it really thought-provoking.
Yes.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Destabilizing in a way, because I was trying to work out, because this is not the kind of language that or the humor that I think most of us would see, certainly not in a professional environment. I would hope that we wouldn't see. But equally, it's that kind of subconscious bias that exists that needs to be challenged. So I think the one word that I could definitely say and feel certain of is powerful. I think it's really, really powerful. And encountering this in a professional setting, I think having time to unpick it mentally as well, to understand how this can drive positive change. It's definitely very, very powerful. It's definitely powerful.
Thank you. I just want to say one thing, and then I think Emma, I think you might have something to say, but I just have to say one thing really quickly, if that's okay. Thank you, Emma. Is the very beginning of the show, the actors are actually hidden in the auditorium wearing black trench coats and hoods, apart from Stephanie, who's standing very defiantly on stage. And throughout the show, and with the other clips that you'll see, these are 4 very powerful political cabaret artists. And I don't know, I think I just wanted to say that actually it's very much about saying we're aware of this, we're going to take control, we're the power of the group, and we're aware of this. Anyway, I'm losing what I wanted to say actually. But these, of course, these words are used in everyday language, on television, in film all the time. And when we were in Leeds, we met a young woman whose grandfather, on his medical certificate, it says retard. So that medical, that history of these terms. I'm going to be quiet, Emma, sorry.
I was just going to say that working up to performing this bit, like when we were doing R&D, research and development for it, it was probably one of the most uncomfortable things for me to do. And there was a point where I don't know if I want to say it felt pointless, but like it didn't compute why I was being roped into this. And I mean, I do mean myself here, but like, because all of the cast are disabled and neurodivergent in some way, it was like, why are we saying those words? That was my very first thought, but actually, it makes perfect sense.
Thank you. Any other responses before we move on? It is uncomfortable because it's been normalized. And in order to address that, it has to be reframed, and that's what we're trying to do. And of course, it has to be, it has to be appropriately framed within training as well. And that's why I said at the beginning, is that this 1.5 hour session is really just to offer you some ways in, some headliners. I'm going to move on to the final extract. And again, this is where the lights come on and Emma is the presenter for another sort of game show called Where Are They Now? And it's where Emma invites adults who were children in the 1980s when you all gave money to children in need. And we're asking, where are these lovely children now as adults? And this is a trigger warning here because it does talk about hate crime and death. And it's about 5 minutes long, okay? So it doesn't start, it starts, I think, in the second one, I think, the person that you invite up, Emma.
Tony Smith, what's up, man? There we go, there we go, there we go. Shh. It looks like Tony Smith also won't be here with us tonight. He was recently found locked up in an illegal factory farm, along with a number of other learning disabled and autistic men. Most were found too late, but Tony was one of the few who survived and is undergoing medical treatment. Can we have Serena?
Can everybody hear this?
Ish.
Shit!
Better? Okay.
Fucking hell. Excuse my language. I am devastated to have to share that our final guest, once again, will also not be with us this evening. Serena Meyer had COVID and was denied life-saving treatment because she was learning disabled. Without her or her family's consent, she was given the order not to be resuscitated, and she died alone, completely needlessly. Serena Meyer was one of more than 22,000 disabled people in the UK who died from coronavirus between 2020 and 2022, making up 2/3 of all UK COVID deaths. Moreover, did you also know that disabled women were 11 times more likely to die of COVID than the rest of the UK population? Look what happened to Barbara, to Tony, to Serena. I wonder who else was with them at the time. Was there really nothing that could be done for them? I mean, surely if you see someone being pushed around and disrespected, you'd do something, wouldn't you? You wouldn't just walk on by. You wouldn't just leave them there. So what is it that you fuckers want from us? You keep calling us broken. You don't know the cracks and the scars that each and every single one of you has given us. All those mental scars, all those physical scars. We are sick and tired of being your circus dogs. And most of all, I wonder why nobody at all intervened behalf of these real people. Susan Sullivan, Connor Sparrowhawk, Emily O'Reilly, Terry Green, Joel Crockett, Oliver McGowan, Christine Lukinski, Albert Adams, Raymond Atherton, Laura Milne, Kevin Davies, Fiona Pilkington, Christopher Fulks, Stephen Gale, Colin Greenwood, Frankie Hardwick, Charlie Her, Barry John Horrell, Stephen Hoskin, Ricky Jodkins, Brett Martin, Sean Miles, Keith Philpott, Harvey Waterman, William Ripsher.
Yeah, the sound is cut out again, but this is Another One Bites the Dust by Queen.
Okay, thank you. And then we hear DJ, as we know at the end, as a voiceover thing, and I always wondered why they never. Gosh, mine's gone blank. Nobody ever stepped in.
That's what stuck in my head. You know, why didn't people say, "Oh, are you okay?" But hey,
exactly. Thank you.
That's pretty much exactly as I remember it. Just so people know.
So we're really aware that we've got a very short time before the end of this session. And I was thinking, gosh, you know, there's a lot there, but I also don't want to apologize for it because, you know, this is a bit of a pilot. We're fitting into current structures, and it was wonderful that Dora invited us. I'm so delighted. But maybe we could just sort of ask you just to have a think about, because it's people cry. I was thinking when I watch this part, it's very emotional. It's very upsetting because it's such a silenced group. And yet, you know, we as the end, the whole show ends with them saying, you know, we are everywhere, sometimes in the shadows, but we are everywhere. And I just wondered whether maybe just the last few minutes just to put some comments here about what will you take with you away today? Just one, maybe just a question, a thought, a feeling that you can bring into your practice, or maybe it reassures you about your practice that you do already. And the other thing is I'd love to maybe show the whole film to you, and I can speak to Dora about that. But could we just have any responses about the direct connection between what you've witnessed today and your practice and the INHR? Any thoughts? So hands up or writing in the chat. But I'd like everybody to write down something they're going to that stayed with them and that they'll take away with them. Amazing. Claire.
I'm struggling to find one simple thing to write, so I just thought I would try and articulate something, and I'm not sure it's going to be exactly what I want to say, having thought about it. But what we've just watched there is one of the most hard-hitting, thought-provoking things I've watched in a professional environment, I think. And if we can find a way to channel something that is so helpful in changing perspectives and understanding, that would be amazing. So congratulations on a really powerful piece of work, and I hope we find a way to be able to channel that in the settings that we work in, because at the end of the day, the NIHR, which was your question, I think, how does that fit into what we do? The whole mission of what we do collectively is to improve the health of the nation, and dispelling stereotypes and bias has to be a huge part of that, doesn't it? To make sure that we're reflective of the whole community that we serve. So I don't know what to type, but wanted to feedback and say thank you.
No, that's brilliant. And we know that learning disabled people, I think, will die 20 years younger on average. I mean, it's shocking. So this is very much around health and care, absolutely. And it's everybody's responsibility. It's about shifting that it's not just, when something's invisible, it's quite easy just to block out, but we make it invisible. Any other responses after Claire's brilliant response? It'd be great to hear. Emma, go for it.
I was going to say in the chats, Dora's got her hand up. Will there be time for me to read just one comment, or shall I pass to you?
If you're happy, I can read through the comments. If you want to mention
go for it.
Just a bit of the time.
So I just wanted to kind of jump on to what Claire said, not actually to what Alex put in the chat. There's just so much to take away that I think it will take us a while to sort through everything. But for me, I think the biggest thing is to be better at calling out that behavior, because I think that's one of the issues that we don't do that. I don't want to generalize, but I don't think people stand up for others as much as they should. So I think that's one of the things.
That's brilliant. So the way we work, there's a term code of silence that I've tripped upon that happens in the police force, where the whole culture is you look after your fellow police person, where you ignore illegal behaviour that's going on within the force. It's called the code of silence. And we try to put that when we're working with marginalised, with learning to say this, let's keep it jolly. Let's, if you don't speak up, you're actually reinforcing the discrimination. You are guilty. We're guilty. So thank you, Dora.
Okay, just to go through some of the comments in the chat. Bronya said that she's taking away curiosity, and then Emma put in two links. One is the YouTube channel for Access All Areas, and the other one is the trailer for Not Fucking Sorry. Hannah said that I think we can say it is a silent hidden group, but actually it's more than society isn't listening and isn't looking, and that's what we need to do, be more alert. Joe said that we need to challenge as well. Alex, I'm not sure what I'm taking away, but it will be on my mind for a while. And then Emma said sometimes it can take a while to know what you got and how to articulate it, which I definitely agree. And Ange said that the power of storytelling in this medium and the importance of dialogical opportunities built into dissemination methods. Just you asking us the questions is an important reminder to seek thoughts and feedback on research findings. And Hannah said, I think in research studies often forget people with learning disabilities also have other health conditions, but the studies do not anticipate this, and therefore we deny this group opportunities. And Lyselle put her email very kindly in the chat. Do you want to share any final thoughts, Lyselle, Emma, or Heather? Because we'll need to wrap up.
I mean, I'm actually just quickly locating an article that Mark and I wrote about the code of silence and hierarchies in the making of Not Fucking Sorry, and it's just a 2,000-word piece. So if I put the link in the chat for people to read, perhaps at their own leisure, and I also just think thank you for your time. I know this was not compulsory, and something that Dora and we spoke about was often it's the people who get it, who come to these events, anything to do with the EDI often. Yeah, and we've got resources that we can share as well. But I just wanted to say thank you. And I know it's quite a heavy lunch, but actually, as it should be. Emma, do you want, and also I'd love to do the sharing of the film because we're screening the whole film, and that's what we did recently at another event, and it was quite interesting responses, different responses. Emma.
Bear with. Terminology.
Do you want to share any last thoughts, Emma?
There we go. I was just typing a response to Hannah in the chat.
Just from any just your responses, just about being here and about just that we're closing now. Any final thoughts?
I'm very glad to have been here. What was I going to say? Lizelle and I have written a piece together called Defiant Bodies. That's about all I remember of the title.
And I'll make that available. I'll make it available as well, Emma.
Yeah, cool. And she's done texts, Lizelle, I mean, sorry, has done texts on EDI, Emancipatory Disability Research, or words along those lines.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But yeah.
Brilliant. So yeah, I mean, it's and basically we're part of Access All Areas, and we do a lot of training as well.
Yeah.
Heather, any final thoughts from you just before we close? Because I'm really aware of time.
Yeah, time. Yeah, no, just thank you for coming, and it all goes very quickly, but just from the reflections that you've shared, I hope that it's been useful and it will just spark. It's just as Lizelle said, it's kind of the beginning of a conversation, isn't it? So take it forward and have it with your colleagues, and and thanks for your presence.
Amazing. Thank you everyone so much.